Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're going to have a lecture on computer fundamentals or fundamentals of ICT. So in this course unit, I'll be your host or moderator, Simwe Samuel, and we're going to look at the introduction to information and communication technology, that is ICT in full. We're going to talk about computer systems. We shall talk about the evolution of computers, the systems development cycle, computer hardware. We shall talk about the input devices. There are very many. We shall talk about the output devices. There are also very many. We shall talk about secondary storage devices, computer software, processing modes of computers, printers, etc. We shall also talk about the communication theory, that is the communication in ICT, qualities, definition, etc. We shall also talk about the computer networks, computer security, internet, and then that will be the overall course unit. So I hope you'll learn with me from the start to the end. So let's talk about the introduction to information and communication technology. So what is ICT? ICT is defined as the acquisition, processing, storage, and dissemination of vocal, pictorial, numerical information by a microelectronics-based combination of computing and telecommunication. Acquisition is the word, this comes from the word acquire. Acquiring, that is acquiring data or information. So acquiring information, processing this data or information, storing this data. Dissemination is breaking down of this vocal. Dissemination means breaking down of this vocal, pictorial, numerical information. So it could be sound, maybe you're in a studio recording music, so that is vocal. It could be you on TV, you're broadcasting, so this can be pictorial. You could be a photographer taking images, this is also pictorial. So this is pictorial format. The audio part is the vocal format. So ICT is defined as the acquisition, that is acquiring data, acquisition, processing, storage, and dissemination of vocal, pictorial, numerical information by a microelectronics-based combination of computing and telecommunication. So that is ICT. You may as well find other definitions online, which could be very good and shorter. However, in your definition, while trying to define this term, I would very want you to have things like what's like processing, they need to be there, something electronic. Talk about data and information in your statement. That would be very, very helpful. And then information concepts. We have data. How do we find data? How do we define data? Data. These are raw facts relating to an activity in a given environment. These are raw facts relating to an activity in a given environment. It doesn't convey any particular meaning to an environment, e.g., number of employees, basic salary, etc. So this is data. This is something that has not been processed yet. This is why we call it data. Something that has not been processed yet. These are raw facts. These are things that are not put together yet. Take an example of kilograms. Take an example of like you're talking about the basic salary, talking about number of employees, weight. This is all data. This is in pieces. These are all facts that you need to put together to produce what we call information. So therefore, data is a raw materials which need to be processed and turned into information. Data, before it is processed, will only remain data. But the moment you process data, it becomes information. So what is information? Information, this is data which has been converted or processed into a more useful form and can be used for decision-making purposes. Take an example. If you know the basic salary of every employee in your organization, then it makes it easy for you to know the amount of money you need to raise to pay these employees. So that is, you've processed this data and now you've put it into more useful form. Or for example, let's talk about the current situation. If you know the number of people who have been vaccinated, then you will obviously know the number of doses that have been used on these people. So the number of people who need to be vaccinated, that is data. The doses that we acquired, that is data. When you process it, when you put it into more useful form, you'll have such analysis and you'll be able to make decisions in the long run. You'll know that if 1 million vaccines have been donated or have been given to people, out of 2 million people, 1 million has been vaccinated, 1 million has not been vaccinated. So that is you putting this data, this processed information into more useful form. Then let's talk about data processing. So what is data processing? This is a term given to the process of collecting data together. This is a term given to the process of collecting data together and converting it into information. So that whole process of getting data and collecting it together and then converting it into more useful information is what we call data processing. So therefore, data processing are those activities concerned with the systematic recording, arranging, filing, processing, and dissemination of facts relating to the physical events occurring in the business. So these are activities, those activities concerned with the numeric recording or systematic recording, arranging, filing, processing, and dissemination of facts relating to the physical events occurring in the business. So therefore, processed data becomes information. The moment you process data, this data will become information. A data processing system. We've talked about what data processing is. The whole process of converting data into information is what we call data processing. Then let's talk about the data processing system. This refers to the stages which must be completed while processing the data. This refers to the stages which must be completed while processing the data. These include the following. Number 1, input. Number 2, processing. Number 3 is output. So at the input stage, this is where you input data. You don't input information. The moment you input information, you're wrong because information is processed data. So before you process data will remain data. It will not turn into information, not until you've processed it. So at the input stage, you input data. Then you follow those arrows. After inputting data, this data will go under processing. This data will undergo that stage of processing. After being processed, this data will eventually turn into information at the output stage. You cannot input data and output data after processing it. The moment you process data, it will become information. The moment data is not processed, it will remain as data. And then when everything is successful, when everything is okay, then you can always provide feedback to the input stage. So we have a saying in ICT that information output at one stage can be data at a given stage. And we shall see how this statement applies in ICT. Information at a given stage can be data at another given stage. Hope we okay so far. Let's talk about levels of information. Levels of information. So here is the statement. Information at one stage or level of management may be data needing to be processed at another stage. Managers use information, one, by relating it to other knowledge they already have, and two, by seeking for more information before making a decision. Before you make any decision, you should have, or you must have, enough information on which you're basing to make this decision. If you're a manager, you don't just make decisions, you have to have a basis and enough information to refer to before you make this decision. So that is very important. There are usually three main levels of information within an organization. There are usually three main levels of information within an organization. So this table is illustrating the various levels of information within an organization. We have the top management, which uses the strategic information level. Then we have middle management, which uses tactical information, and then we have lower management, which uses operational information. Let's talk about strategic information. Let's talk about strategic information. Strategic information is used by top or senior managers. So top or senior managers, those are people at the very top of the organization, the bosses, the CEOs, the big managers. So strategic information is used by top or senior managers to set objectives and assess whether the objectives are being met in practice. Whether the objectives are being met in practice. For example, market prospects. By market prospects, we mean the market plans, the market conditions, or the market expectations. For example, market prospects and future profitability. When you want to assess how much of those profits you will make in future, or how much the market will impact you in future, you need to use this strategic information to make those decisions. If there is need for more profitability, then you will need to produce more products in order to catch up. That is the only way you can eventually make more profits in the long run or in future. So this is the use of strategic information. It is used in management decision making. It is used in management decision making, which is described as strategic planning. So what we call management decision making, this is basically called strategic planning. You lay strategies, you make a very perfect plan for the future of your company. For example, amidst this pandemic, institutions have resorted to online studies in order to remain in business, or to stay in business and have a competitive advantage over other institutions that cannot be able to cope up with the online system, or who do not have the online system. So for those who do not have the online system, they are still sitting at home and maybe waiting for schools and institutions to open. However, those using strategic information, those who have used strategic planning, those who have done some research and have seen a way out, they've resorted to online studies in order to stay in business and continue moving. So strategic information is therefore derived from both the internal and external sources. Strategic information is therefore derived from both the internal and external sources. This basically means that people in the organization, within the organization, will provide this information, and people outside the organization will also provide this information. We're talking about marketeers who go out in the field. We're talking about sales personnel and distributors who go out in the field and get feedback from customers. These provide you with strategic information because this is not within the organization. So this is information got from those sources. Strategic information is therefore summarized at high levels. So this information is very, very summarized, and we shall see how. For example, when the president is addressing the various places which have the largest numbers of COVID-19 cases, he will not go village per village and talk about Duhaga, talk about Kiriatete, talk about Kinobi. He'll consider Hoima as a whole and say maybe there are 100,000 cases of COVID-19. So this is summarized information, and we shall see those who talk about information at these low levels. For example, the president is not supposed to talk about it at the ground level. They talk about the whole nation in general and maybe at the district level. They say Hoima as a whole has 100,000 cases of COVID-19. And you will not stop there. You will not start breaking it down that village so and so has this, village so and so has this. So this information is summarized at high levels. Strategic information is also relevant to the long term. It is relevant to the long term. It deals with the whole organization. Strategic information deals with the whole organization. It is often prepared on the ad hoc basis. It is both qualitative and quantitative in nature. So for these top managers, you're supposed to provide them with quality information, not information that you're doubting, not information that you're not sure of. If you've decided to provide them with information, give them quality and quantitative information. So that is for strategic information. Then tactical information. So we're talking about middle management, because it's middle management that use tactical information. This is used by middle management to ensure that the resources of the business are employed to achieve the strategic objective of the organization. They are used to achieve the strategic objective of the organization. It involves budget controls, variance analysis reports, cash flow forecast to ensure liquidity availability at all time. So it is middle management who use this information. People like heads of department, managers, those people. It is those people who use. It is those people who use tactical information. Tactical information is therefore derived mainly from internal sources. So this information is derived from within the organization. It is summarized at a lower level. It is summarized at a lower level. It is relevant to short and medium term. So since this information keeps on changing, you cannot use it to make very long-term decisions. You can only use it to make short-term decisions. It deals with departments within the organization. It deals with the departments within the organization. It doesn't deal with the organization as a whole. So it deals with the departments within the organization. It is based in quantitative measures. So this information is produced in quantitative measures. Since it's a lot, not until it is summarized for top management, it will only be collected and then analyzed for short-term decision making. Then we have operational information. This is used by frontline managers like foremen. This is used by frontline managers like foremen or head clerks, etc. To ensure that specific tasks are planned and carried out properly within the factory or office. So operational information, which is used by lower management, where lower management can include foremen, include team leaders, and other subordinates at the lower level. People like cashiers, people like receptionists. These are the lower level managers. So these are the people who use operational information. Operational information is therefore derived from internal sources. It is highly detailed, being the processing of raw data. It relates to immediate term. It is task specific. So while collecting information at this level, at the lower management level, you have to be task specific. You have to be specific on what you're collecting information from. It is prepared constantly since it keeps on changing. It is largely quantitative in nature. So this information is not summarized, it is largely quantitative. You cannot make decisions based on this information. You have to first analyze it, summarize it, and then send it to middle management.